to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. It's Power Talk Friday, and my guest today is Ethan Butte. Ethan is here to share with us an intriguing tool that we can use to better connect with our potential clients and our existing clients. It's a simple tool that can help us create and enhance relationships and cut out so much of the misunderstanding and wasted time that often comes with typing out our thoughts in email or text. Ethan is Chief Evangelist at BombBomb. He is also the co-author of Rehumanize Your Business and the host of the Customer Experience podcast. Ethan has spent the past decade helping business professionals be more personal and human through simple video messages. He's personally sent more than 12,000 videos himself. He has also spent a dozen years leading marketing teams inside local television stations in Chicago, Grand Rapids, and Colorado Springs. He holds an undergraduate and graduate degrees in communication, psychology, and marketing from the University of Michigan and UCCS. He lives in Colorado Springs with his wife and son. Now, I'd love to get to this conversation about how we can win in a competitive industry simply by leading with our best sales tool, ourselves. Hi, Ethan. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to it, and it's a privilege to be here.
Well, I'm looking forward to this conversation too, Ethan, because our friend Chris Wallace introduced us, which I'm grateful for. Chris was on the show last summer, and he really impressed me as a visionary thinker. And so when he, connected us, and I started looking into what you are doing, I have to tell you, quite frankly, two things went through my mind. The one thing is, whoa. He's onto something here, and this makes total sense. And the second thing that went through my mind is, I have been told for the 5 years of the podcast that I need to do more video, and I consistently resist doing it.
Well, we've got a lot to talk about on that, because that is the number one impediment to more successful adoption of the ideas that we'll be talking about today.
I know. It is what it's almost like. I'm like, I'm a person who wants to build a platform and wants to build my company. And somebody says to me, do more video, it'll go faster. It's almost like somebody's like, I want to get in shape and I want to, have stronger body and this and that. And they like go to the gym and I'm like, nah, I'll have a Twix. Like I keep not doing it. So your business is very compelling. And of course, what I've learned in reading about you and in the recommendation that Chris gave me and in the little bit of time that I've had a chance to get to know you before this conversation on air is that you are a sharer and a giver. And so I know that you have a company and a service that we can take advantage of, but I also can tell from all of the information that you gave me for doing the show that you're completely prepared and wanting to share the hows and the whys and the best practices with us if we are just going to willing to take the next step of doing more video on our own. And so I'm happy and excited about this for selfish reasons and also because I want my audience to know it too. But you say it's really pretty compelling when you say, why do we entrust our most important and valuable messages to a form of communication that doesn't build trust or rapport? It doesn't differentiate us, and it doesn't communicate fully or simply the way it does when we look somebody in the eye. And that, like right there, that was a you had me at hello statement, Ethan.
Awesome. Happy to hear it. And thank you for the kind words. I'm super passionate about this. I've been working on this idea of communicating with simple video messages for about a decade. And I've just seen so many transformations when people get to the other side of that initial discomfort that you hinted at in the introduction. And so the conversation starts with that line. I love that you picked up on that one. And it's true. So really what it is a statement about the limitations of digital communication platforms that we all treat as perfectly normal. Like this is how we should be doing things, right? And so what we're talking about is typed out emails, typed out text messages, typed out Slack messages, typed out messages with the same black text on the same white screen as our competitors, with typed out text, sometimes with an emoji punched in so we can try to make it clear that we're joking and not serious, but someone misreads us as passive aggressive, right? There's a lot of research on the limitations of emojis. And so, when you think about all of these messages that we're sending to like someone makes a nice referral, right? And so, we get an introduction, and instead of just typing a reply back, we could actually it's been this way for years now. We have the cameras built into our laptops and our smartphones. We have the bandwidth. Why don't we just record a message where we greet someone, validate everything that their best friend told them about what a fantastic person and what a fantastic professional we are, and communicate with our whole selves? And we can get into why, but I think that's a really interesting starting point for a lot of people. Another idea around that statement is, if I could only just get together in person, if I could only be in the same room, if I could only be across the table at the coffee shop or in an office or whatever, I could only get in front of this person, they would understand, right? And we have the ability to do that with simple recorded video messages.
I really do relate to this on a lot of levels, Ethan. Number one, look, my husband is in his early 70s. And our business came of age before there was any of this, before there was answering machines, fax machines, emails, and certainly cell phones. And our salesman now on the regular, our sales team on the regular is communicating with our clients via text and email. And he will literally sit at the sales meetings, most weeks and be, why don't you pick up the phone and call them? Like he's like put a voice to it. Let them hear how you sound, right? And so you're taking it to that next level and taking it back to when business was done person to person in a digital and global age where we've gone completely away and to this text and this email and this very flat, like you said, like, hey, a little emoji. I'm really just being friendly, not being, weird here, right?
Yeah. So we work with people of all kinds. Like our customers include people in businesses like real estate, mortgage, financial services, insurance sales, coaches, consultants, like truly all kinds of people in all kinds of businesses as well, small and large. But the thing that you said there that made me think of some of my favorite things that I've heard, because I have a lot of direct conversations with people. And one of my favorite things to hear is, this makes what I do fun again. This reminds me why I got into the business. Like people that have been, I'm a few decades into my own career. And so when I talk to people that their careers in these fields that are very relationship oriented, harken back to the days before, as you were, the days before a lot of this digital communication kind of got in between people, and it's fast and convenient, and so it's alluring and it does have some benefits, but it's inappropriate for so many situations. And so when you get to mix in more of yourself and people feel like they know you before they meet you and the conversations start in warmer and different places, I've heard things like kind of what you shared, this makes what I do fun again.
It's so true. And I have to say, there are three examples that come to my mind that already prove your point. Number one, Rachel Bosick was on the show recently, a month or 2 months ago, and she is a she's someone who specializes in helping female entrepreneurs identify their brand and lean into their brand and, do all the things to create brand awareness, right? And I'm working with her. She's coaching me. And what was interesting was she has this the very in-depth discovery process, because she needs to get to know you and your hopes and dreams and ideals and all the things. And it literally says at the top of it, complete this in one sitting. Well, I took that as a suggestion, not as a rule. And so I spent like 2 hours doing this thing and really being very thoughtful, because this is a serious thing. She's really working and wanting to get the core of you. And I get to 3/4 of it, and my husband's like, hey, blah, 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 you want to go to lunch? I'm like, sure. Close it, open it again. It's all gone. And I'm just like, whoa, I'm not getting that 2 hours of my life back. So now I emailed her and I said, okay, I'm not doing that again. Like, I don't know how we're going to do this, but I can't do that again. It won't happen for another week, and your deadline is Tuesday and it's Monday. It's not going to happen. So she says, you know what? Why don't you make a video of yourself? And I was like, that I can do. I can put my Zoom on and I'll just read myself the question and answer the question. And my point is, do you know what she said? She came back to me and she said, I might have to switch my discovery process to have them do it by Zoom. She said, because hearing you, seeing your face, say all the things that you're passionate about and your goals for yourself and your business and the why you do what you do, she goes, was so powerful, right? And that's exactly what you're saying. Like, go for that thing that connects you with the other person, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's the what you say and there's the how you say it. So that's one part of it, right? And that's what she was reacting to, is like, where do you light up? What words do you emphasize and even put exclamation points on with your eyes or with the way your mouth turns up? Like, where do you really light up? What do you lean into? What words do you drag out? There's that layer of it. And then there's the layer of filling out some online form, which again is just this flat black text on a white screen. It looks the same as everyone else's. And she has to try to read between the lines there. And so eventually she's going to want to know what brings you to life, how you communicate these ideas, et cetera. So I love that she wants to pull that forward. I would say that is a great best practice. For example, another large group of people that use our service is, and there are a number of ways to do this, by the way. You can do it yourself. We have a ton of competitors, et cetera. But recruiters, like people that are bridging the gap between people seeking work and people who need, workers. And so they're using this to kind of like do these introductions, essentially some level of discovery and some level of kind of screening and qualification, because how we present ourselves is so important. How we say the words, and again, how we light up, when we light up, et cetera. And for folks who are listening, of course, your clients and your potential clients are all doing the exact same thing. And, what you do bring is unique, but there's also a lot of other people that can bring something unique to the table for a potential client. And so who you are is, especially a complex project where you're maybe doing a lot of coordinated pieces over a long period of time, multiple rooms, or whatever the project is shaped like, who you are is fundamental to the service that you provide. It's not just about the designs and the colors and the textures and the sourcing and some of these other elements. It's not just about project management. It's, as I'm speaking as the client now, it's how do you make me feel? How do you make me feel about myself? How do you make me feel about the problem or opportunity I'm trying to overcome or capitalize on? How do you make me feel about you? How do you make me feel about your ideas? How do you make me feel about your vision for what this thing can be? All of that. And so this idea of being yourself more often, obviously when you're together in person with other people, that happens naturally, but finding spots to do it. And the last thing I just want to be really clear about for people who are listening, we're not just talking about live Zoom calls and Microsoft Teams or Google Meet or whatever you're using. We call that live synchronous video. You both have to be there at 2:00 Eastern, noon Mountain, or whatever, right? We're talking about recording video messages. They could be as short as 15 seconds. They could be 15 minutes. They could be a 90-minute discovery conversation that you're giving in one way so that someone can get all the things that she was talking about, right? But this idea of you record a message when it's convenient for you, you provide it to another person, and they open it up and experience you in person at their own convenience. And so this idea of doing it asynchronously, not just out of space, right? Like you and I can have a good video conversation from across the country or around the world. So that's outside of space, but this is outside of space and outside of time, providing some level of convenience for people. So I just wanted to make that clear for people that hadn't quite put all this together.
I'm glad that you did. And it sort of leads me right back to the second thought that I had when you started talking. And the first thought was my experience and her reaction was sharing my video, when I shared my video of her with her. The second, which goes to what you were just talking about, is Nicole Heimer is now knee deep into building a new website for my new business, Exciting Windows. And you know what happened? Nicole and I talk all the time. We literally are Voxering each other all the time. We have once a month, like you said, synchronization in real time, same Zoom meetings. But when she wanted to share with me last week the progress that she's making on that website, she made a Loom video and she walked through the different things that she had completed and pointed out the different areas that she needed feedback. And I have to tell you, Ethan, interestingly, even though it was the computer on the screen, not Nicole's face, I remember literally thinking, I like this experience. I like this better than her sending me an email and saying, okay, open up and on, the homepage, look at these 3 things. And I've got to go to the email and then go to the homepage. It was not only very convenient, but to your point, she was able to convey to me, I could hear where she thought something was important and where she was like, and if you like this or you like this, I'm good either way, right? And so I can imagine when you do take it, as you said, to interior designers when their projects are such complicated beasts, when all along the way, the client is continually to feel like they're having that conversation because they're seeing their face and hearing their voice. So walk us through a little bit. I know that you have guidelines or a framework or something for how we start to look at this in our business. You're not necessarily just talking about like what I was talking about in the beginning, joking. You're not talking about video for marketing or promotion. You're talking about integrating video in the day-to-day business transactions, right?
Absolutely. I just want to make one highlight because I love that example you just shared. So what you were talking about is what we call a screen recording video. I personally feel like it's best practice to include your face on the screen. So that's something that we have in our platform as well, as you can record yourself in your screen. I like the face included, and just kind of a subtle pro tip is when you're making an important point, stop looking at your own screen, look into the camera and restate yourself. Because again, and it's doing a couple things. One, I love, Luann, that you liked it as the recipient, and I can imagine why. It's clearer. You can watch it at 9:30 at night while you're sitting in bed on your tablet if you want to, instead of having we would never have that as a live call, and you would never get the context if you just read it out of an email. So I love that use case. But the other thing too is that she's demonstrating her expertise at some level, right? She's building this. I call it psychological proximity. We can build this psychological nearness for people, right? It's the same reason for decades people felt close to the television news anchor or the television weather person, because they saw them repeatedly night after night, right? And so they start to feel, it's a parasocial relationship. They start to feel drawn to that person, even though they may not know them that well. And so you're demonstrating your expertise. You're making it easier for the recipient. Again, you're breaking it outside the bounds of time, and you're kind of showing and telling at the same time, which is typically easier for you than it is to kind of capture the words in bullet points and phrases and sentences to type up in an email. And it's better for the recipient too. So fantastic example and a really great use case. And so, yes, I am suggesting that whether you are a solopreneur or whether you're running a small team or whether you're running a large operation, that you need and want to find opportunities to mix in simple personal video messages into part of how you're connecting and communicating, A, with one another, and B, of course, with your prospects and clients, and C, with all the suppliers and vendors and other people in your business ecosystem, right? For a variety of reasons. But what I'll share here is kind of a few ways to think about this. And the question or the crux is, okay, I'm not going to send videos all the time. That doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't. So when would I send video, and when am I okay just going to the keyboard and typing something out, right? Like I would otherwise, no matter the channel. So here are 3 ways to think about that. The first one I call personal connection. When does the personal relationship really matter? This is super good very early in the relationship, perhaps before you've ever met, before you've been on a call, before they've ever seen or experienced you, right? Like maybe they came by referral and someone said really nice things about you, or maybe they checked out your website and they filled out a form. So they know a little bit about you and your specialty. They've maybe seen some of your portfolio or whatever the case may be. And there may be an inbound expression of interest. You want to follow up with that. So early in the relationship is a fantastic time, or in between when you haven't seen someone for a while. This could be on an active long-term project where you're giving updates along the way, or it could just be, you're going to time block 30 minutes once a week to reach out to people who are important to you. This could be past clients. It could be someone that, came in with their own specialty on a project through you in service of another client. It could be a vendor or a partner, whatever. Like you just time block this time. You just reach out to people and you're doing things like, thank you, or congratulations, or I was thinking about you, or I just wanted to follow up. I'm wondering how X, Y, or Z is going. These things that we know we should be doing, to keep our relationships alive and as a consequence, keep our businesses healthy, as opposed to just thinking of someone and letting that moment go by. And so personal connection is one. People will feel closer to you when you are in front of them in this more personal and human way. Number 2 is emotion or tone. And we run into both of these all of the time. We need to find the way to capture what we really mean. Now, the easy go-to is the positive emotion or tone. Really excited. Again, thank you, congratulations, great job. Hey, I just noticed that, again, I'm going to like a soft personal example here. Hey, I just noticed that your daughter made captain of the soccer team. That's amazing. I'm so excited for her. Gosh, I remember when she was just a little kid running around the yard. You must be so proud of her. Tell her I said hello. I hope she has an awesome season. Take care. Have a great day, right? Something that you learn by just scrolling a social media feed, right? Or hearing it from a friend. So positive emotion. And the reason we do positive emotion in a video message, if we don't do it in person, is that, again, all the things we were talking about before, the sincerity, the gratitude, the enthusiasm, none of that comes through, even if you put 6 exclamation points and put a couple words in all caps, right? The other one that's super interesting, though, and again, we're talking about the second point, managing emotion or tone, is negative emotion or tone. When you need to share bad news with somebody, if you need to make an apology, if, I know as the frontline person on a long-term project with a lot of moving pieces, sometimes you just have to suck it up and take responsibility for a vendor or someone else in the supply chain that failed the timeline or failed you or failed the client, right? You still need to own that. So how do we do that? We do it in video because, again, sincerity is a big deal. Intent is a big deal. People need to know that you care. I think the thing that we psychologically want to do, because it's easiest, is just to kind of type it up and send it off and brace ourselves for the phone call that we know is coming. The reason we don't do that as an outbound phone call, probably some of that same kind of lack of courage, but it's actually a benefit to the other person. Psychologically, bad news is longer and more difficult to process psychologically. And so when we do it asynchronously and we can reach out and, with our full sincerity. And by the way, if you don't actually mean the words you're saying, don't do video because it will, or you'll betray yourself, right? Human brains, like our face is giving away information all the time, and other people are reading that information off of us automatically.
Right.
So when you express this bad news asynchronously, but with your full tone and intent and sincerity, give people the time to process that. And then after they've seen the video, then you pick up the phone, or you maybe wait for their reply, and then you can talk about it. But if you just jump on the phone straight away, or you just jump on a Zoom call straight away, and you just kind of like hammer them with a really big disappointing piece of news, you're essentially expecting them to respond in real time. And it's something that they're not psychologically prepared to do. And sometimes it's just an unnecessary discomfort for both parties. Give them a little bit of space. So that's emotion and tone. And then the third one, I kind of already hinted at, so I'll rip through it really quickly, is detail or complexity. You already introduced that with this website rebuild that you're going through, right? There's a lot of detail there, and you kind of want to see it. So anywhere there's detail or complexity, this could be reporting. This could actually be a project proposal. This could be a contract. This could be back-end reporting or analytics. This could be a timeline in a project management software where, you couldn't show it before, so you found some way to summarize it, but then people follow up and they have questions and all of this. If you can walk and talk through something that has some level of detail or complexity, you're doing a number of benefits. One, it's usually easier for you because you have the visual aid. B, you don't have to try to turn it into words and bullet points and sentences. C, you're giving the client something that they can understand more specifically. And then D, you're giving them something that they can forward to other people who need and want to know the same information, right? And so that's why I also love a follow-up after a meeting. If you end up doing some of these things live in a Zoom call or a video call or an in-person meeting, following up after the meeting with the highlights in a video kind of does the same thing. Someone else that's going to influence the decision, or some other stakeholder in the process that wasn't able to attend. When you do this in video, you give the client something they can watch 1 or 2 or 3 times. And I'd be curious, Luann, if you watched that screen recording of your website project more than once, or maybe jumped into it midway so you could see part of it again, but you're also giving the opportunity to forward it to somebody else. So if anyone else on your side wanted a website update, you could just easily forward it to them. And last point here, you're not relying on that other person to carry the information forward. You get to be the expert. You get to be the service provider. You get to be the one representing the ideas, and again, with your expertise and enthusiasm in a very unique way, so that you remain the source of that expertise and information, as opposed to relying on a proxy to do their next best job to convey all of your expertise on your behalf. You get to do it yourself through video.
Well, first of all, you have hit on so many of the pain points in the process of doing complex interior design projects, all the way from your first point, which is the personal connection. It's at that first point, clients are trying to decide between which designer they're going to hire, and maybe there's a phone call conversation. They've explored the different websites, but, I guess what I'm envisioning is maybe somebody comes to my website, they fill out my little form, or they come right through and we make a phone call and we have a conversation. And in that personal connection phase, tell me if I'm looking at this the right way. I could then do the follow-up video that says, it was so great to have this conversation about you and your master bedroom renovation project that you're planning. Some of the 3 things that I want to say I heard is that it's a priority for you to have a place that looks like a hotel. It's a priority for you to redesign the space so that you have a closet and a master. And it's a priority for you that this is completed by Christmas of next year. Whatever. I'm like, whatever. Just something that, like, to me, I want to take something out of the conversation that's personal, so the person knows I heard them. That's what I'm trying to get at. And even if it was one thing. But then what I'm envisioning, to your point, the personal connection, if that person has had 2 or 3 discovery calls and only one of us sends the video back, that's sort of, two things are going to happen. They're either going to feel more like this is my people, or maybe in the video they're like, oh, I don't like the way her mouth looks when she talks. And now we avoid the whole thing where we're not going to be a good fit, right?
I am so glad that you said that. So first and foremost, well done. The only thing I would add to your follow-up after the phone call script, not script, but like an outline. And I love this idea of reiterating some of the key points, because this does a couple things. This pushes human happy buttons. Mm-hmm. The number one goal for anybody in their life, as they go through their day, as they go through their week, as they go through their month, as they engage people to do, product and service work for them, all any of us wants, and even the most hardcore type A people need this just as much as everybody else. We want to feel seen and heard and appreciated and understood. And so when you can get off a call and look someone in the eye through the camera lens and say, Luann, thank you so much for your time on the phone today. I had such a good time. I'm really excited about your own vision for this. I'm excited to add to it and develop it. The three most important things I heard you say were bing, 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 right? And then a couple key things you want to do here. One, if there were any objections or concerns, you want to make sure that you readdress those in the way that you're going to handle those. But you're already calling to do one thing I always teach people to do, which is remind them what is exciting to them, right? Like why they want to do this and what they hope to achieve. And you built that into your bullet points. And then the other thing I would do is always close with, and you can sometimes even start with and close with what the next step is, right? So now that we've had this conversation and you know that I see you and I hear you and I understand you and I appreciate you and I'm excited to do this work for you, I'm capable of doing it, and I'm going to address your objections. Here's what you need to do next, right? Here's what the next step is in the process. So you make it easy for them to proceed. And I would also say for people that are generating leads through a website, through like some kind of a simple form, whether it's a contact us or whether it's something more interactive to engage people, and then it turns into like an inbound lead in whatever system or platform you're using, you can reach out to, even though you haven't had that phone call, you can reach out to those people to follow up on whatever that activity was, and you use the information that they provided. Even if it's as simple as they've described the absolute very basics of their project, like it could just be a room of the house or whatever the case may be, you can still speak to as much as you know. And again, what you're looking to do, it's the same thing with introducing yourself with a video to someone who is referred to you. All you're looking to do is validate and excite them about the things they think they know about you, right? So if they're doing their own homework and they're reading about you and they're checking out the About You page on your website and they're looking at your work and they're reading client reviews, or they came by a personal referral, which is of course even better in most cases, what they're looking for at that point is validation. Is this person who they say they are? Is this person who I think they are? What they're really doing subconsciously is this person going to make me feel like I want to feel about myself and about them and about this potential positive outcome? And so I really like that structure, and I think you got that personal connection piece very well.
It's a great idea. Even if we haven't had the conversation, what you're saying is if they answer a contact form, we can come back with a video to the answer of that contact form. Hey, the next step is to make a phone call. So glad to hear that you want to redo your master bedroom and blah, blah, blah. And like, I love that.
Now, the other thing, two quick objections there. One of them is, I don't have time to do that. Okay. And so I would say, how many of these form fills are you getting? How many inbound leads are you getting? What are these opportunities worth to you? Do you not have, I don't know. It depends on your business and your website and the kind of traffic you're getting, et cetera. But my guess is that you're not getting 50 of these a day. My guess is also that the dollar value of turning one of these inquiries into an active project is significant. And so I would question, why wouldn't you do this? Because you already said this, Luann, but I want to emphasize it is not very many people are doing this. If I inquire on 2 or 3 or 4 websites, you're probably going to be the only one doing it. And I promise you it is a massive, massive differentiator, the act alone. But let's just pretend, and I'll double down on one of your earlier points, let's just pretend that all 4 of those people send a video message. Well, you could all say the exact same thing, but those videos are going to feel very different. And the client is going to make a decision. At some point, they are going to judge your competence. And I use that as a catch-all word for capable, inspires confidence, has been around the block, has done projects like mine before, has photos and testimonials to prove it. Like, that's the competence. Can this person do the job? But what everybody judges first and carries more weight over competence is warmth. I'm using that as a catch-all term too. The warmth is, are they going to use their powers for my good? Right? Like, congratulations, you have the powers, but are you going to use the powers for my good? Right? Do you care about me and do I care about you is what they're actually reading first and foremost. There's a trust element, right? Because we all know, and we've read about them in the headlines and in other stories, like these essentially diabolical people who've swindled people out of, massive fortunes. They're highly, highly competent, but they don't have that warmth. And so people are looking to protect themselves and their interests. And so we need to demonstrate that warmth. And so what you said before is, if we're not going to be a good fit because they don't like the way I look, or they don't like the way I dress, or they don't like the way I talk, or they don't like the way I phrase different expressions, right? They're going to make these judgments, whether it's after seeing me in a video, or they're going to make them after we've spent some time on the phone and we finally get together in person and I've already invested 3 or 4 hours of my time into this. And then they make that same essentially kind of shallow judgment, but it's what we do. We all do it. And so, why not help them make that decision earlier and more often? Now, I'll go to the other side. Let's say you do have an active website with a ton of inbound lead traffic. You can set up what we call an evergreen video. Record it once, use it over and over and over again. And there are a number of applications for evergreen videos, but this is a great one where you don't greet the person by name. You're not speaking to their form fill information. You're just acknowledging that you've got their inbound interest. Again, this is for someone that you haven't gotten on the phone yet. So you're doing something like, hey, it's Luann. Thanks so much for visiting the website. I see here that you've expressed some interest in getting a project done. Hey, I would love to do that for you. Right down below, you can see a link to the page on my site where I've got photos of all kinds of projects we've done. And also you'll see down below a link to schedule on my calendar. You can change whatever the call to action is, but a link to schedule on my calendar. The next best step is that we connect by phone, by video, or better yet, in person for a 15 to 30-minute conversation. Really looking forward to connecting with you. Just wanted to put a face with the name, say thanks again, have a great day, right? So you can record that, not do anything that's personal, but they still, again, are going to get this more personal and human touch that validates some of what they were expecting, brings it to life, guides them along in a warmer way, and by the way, also gives you something trackable. You can see if they open the email, if they played the video, how long they watched the video, if you're using a service that allows that. And so you also get to kind of weight the level of interest. Or another thing that's happened to me a lot is, I'll send a video, something like that, personal or evergreen, and I'll maybe not hear back. I'll maybe do a quick lightweight text-only follow-up, and then no response. And then somehow 4 months later, I get an alert that says someone just played this video that you sent 4 months ago, because there's this, we all know how this goes too. I am hot
that would be
to
me.
trot. I need a new bathroom yesterday. And then all of a sudden we have a problem with our pet, or we get some bad news about a family member in our life. Everything that is not nearly as important as that gets put on hold, and then we get back to it when we can. And so that kind of latent demand or that delayed interest is something that we can act on too.
Right. Or you just don't open your emails. There's that. Like me. And that's the thing. It's all the things. And that's so cool how you can track that. You get that little notification that they opened it all those weeks or months later. Interesting. I love it. And I want to get a little bit to the nuts and bolts for those of us that may decide to, look, whether we do it ourselves in whichever form that takes, or we were to even work with a company like yours, there's still some practical suggestions that I think we probably need to cover. At least in my mind, I have questions about, in a practical way, best practices for style and the style of the video. Where am I sitting? Does it matter? The length of the video. You mentioned 15 seconds or 3 minutes. What am I dressing in? Is it really important that if I'm going to do, let's take it to this. So one of the things that you mentioned was one of the reasons for the personal emotional video, number one, the category number one, was, as we said, for introductory purposes. But you also said for when they're in the part of a project where there's not a lot of communication. And that is very much the interior design world, Ethan. There's a lot that happens in the beginning. It's a lot of designing and a back and forth and the approvals and the revisions and the selections and all the things. But then there's that middle period where the designers always share with me that this is the period that, if clients are going to get grumpy, it's going to happen here. If they're going to feel out of sorts, it's going to happen here. And of course, our designers are so smart, and they've learned now to manage the client expectations by telling them, in this part here, from month 3 to month 6, it's going to get a little dicey. This is when your kitchen's going to be out of commission for 2 weeks, and you're going to have to be doing takeout. And this is when, I'm going to tell you that the painter's coming on Tuesday at 10, but then he's not going to show up because, I don't know why. That's what painters do, right? And so we sort of try and manage those expectations, but the designer can be very behind the scenes at that point and not a lot to do client facing. And so they are sending we call, a lot of them do the Friday email update, but you're suggesting that this is a part of the project to keep the client remembering why they like you. They like your face. They like the way you talk. They believe you. They trust you. You're the person they put all this investment in. And so the video conveys that better and more personally than, here's your status email. The sofa's still back ordered. The drapes are still back ordered. Everything,
right.
Whatever, right?
Yeah. So,
right?
So I appreciate that point. And I would say, I just realized the way you set that up that I failed to answer your first question earlier, but it'll allow me to kind of walk into this is, marketing through video versus what we call relationships through video. And we drew that line years ago because most people think about video in this context as lights, scripts, editing, production, drones, green screens, specialized skills, timelines, etc. And that's cool. You should, if you're not doing that, you should think about doing that. It's really great, to hire someone highly competent to help you structure a video to go on your webpage to talk about what's unique about you and your approach and why someone would work with you, maybe include some customer testimonial clips, whatever. But that's all marketing through video, and that's fantastic. What I don't want people to miss, because everyone can participate in this. If you are doing marketing through video, you can do this. If you're not doing marketing through video, you can still do this. Again, relationships through video. The lighting, cool. It just needs to be basic. It needs to be a nice looking shot. You need to feel like you're approximately well represented, but really it's you in your working space, how you look that day. If you feel like you're looking awesome because, you did your hair or you just got, a new top and you think it looks awesome, and you're feeling good in your skin that day, maybe send a couple more, but don't let this idea that I'm not good enough, I'm not ready enough, my hair doesn't look right. Set all that stuff aside because this is about creating a little in-person moment. This isn't about, a 5-minute Spielberg production where you're like, I am the greatest person and this is the greatest business of all time and you're a fool if you don't choose to work with us, right? This is, hey, Jennifer and Bob, it's Luann. I just wanted to give you an update on what's going on because I'll bet you're wondering, right? And so I'll try to answer several of your sub-questions in this way. But, if a video is just for Jennifer and Bob don't care if it takes you 8 minutes to answer their question in a very specific way because it's just about Jennifer and Bob. If, on the other hand, it's an evergreen video and Jennifer fills out a form on your website, you've never talked to her, she's never talked to you, you don't know anything about her, she doesn't know anything about you, keep it short. Keep it definitely under 60 seconds because, again, the goal in something like that is just face with a name, here's what the next steps are, and I'm validating that you did something. I mean, how many times have we filled out a form on a website, not only not gotten an auto reply that says, hey, we got your inquiry, but not gotten anything else either, a phone call or whatever. And so my rule on length is say as much as you need to, nothing more. And if it's for someone you don't know and doesn't know you, keep it super short, because the goal is to get them to take the next step. It's not to answer a question or whatever. If it's truly, truly personal, it can be as long as that person needs. If they ask you a question that's going to has 3 main parts to it and you want to answer it all and it takes you 7 minutes and 42 seconds to do it, they asked the question. They asked it to you. You are the expert. They will watch all 7 minutes and 42 seconds. And by the way, most of these video players, including ours at this point, have that 1.5x or 2x button. So if they want to speak up, they
love
can,
that.
right? So it doesn't matter. So I don't worry too much. The only time, and I've done more than 12,000 of these videos for a variety of purposes over the past decade. The only time I ever re-record a video is if it took me 2 minutes and 12 seconds, but I know in my heart of hearts that I could answer that question, or I could make that point, or I could communicate that to that other person in 1 minute and 8 seconds. Like if I know that I went on a tangent that's irrelevant, out of respect for the other person and their time, in service of the other person, I will sometimes re-record if I feel like I went on too long. Now, if I'm answering a question and it took me, 5 minutes and 27 seconds, I'm not going to re-record that if I know I could do it in 4 minutes, because I'm just in too deep at that point. But, I think respect for people's time is a thing. I would say all of us, in terms of production quality overall, and then I'll add one more point and give it back to you. In terms of production quality overall, if you've been on Zoom calls over the past 16 to 18 months, and I'm using Zoom as a catch-all, and who hasn't, we've all looked at what does our room look like? What does my lighting look like? Some of us have decided to kind of crack the blinds open. Some of us have decided to move the lamp from the left side of our desk to the right side of our desk. Some of us have realized to turn the ceiling fan off if it's in the shot. You've already made the basic adjustments. And these are designers. I've worked with enough creative folks and designers over the years, building a career in marketing. I understand some of and I know it's stereotypical, I know some of the personality types. I know the sensitivity to aesthetics. I know your shot looks a hell of a lot better than you think it does. Okay.
Right. Looks better than the accountant shot who's going to send you a video tomorrow,
Correct.
right?
Which leads me to my last point, which is just that you are your own harshest critic. You're going to look at yourself. You're going to look at your shot. You're going to hear your you're going to hear your pause. Because this is a recorded video again, the live video calls come and go, and we might be in our own heads about, that was stupid, I should have said that differently, but we don't dwell in it. When you record a video and hit stop, your natural tendency is to hit play, and you're going to judge yourself far more harshly than anyone else ever will. You're going to be concerned about the way your collar is turned. You're going to be concerned about the fact that your hair is flipped a little bit the wrong way. Well, guess what? That's all anyone else cares about is what their hair looks like, what their collar looks like. No one is paying attention. And so if your message is sincere, if your message is in the interest of the other person, and if you can communicate, when video helps you do it, if you can communicate with clarity your identity, your intent, your tone, and it's about and for that other person, they are in. They're not going to judge the aesthetics nearly as hard as you will yourself. So you need to, at some level, just let go and trust it. And I promise, if you're listening to this and you start a trial of BombBomb or Loom you mentioned earlier, or any of these other services or platforms that are out there that can help you do this, if you get going with one of these and you send 10 video messages over the next 2 days, and that sounds like a lot, but it isn't. Your first one will take you longer than your second one, will take you longer than your fifth one. And you just do simple messages to people you know and who know you. Thank you. Good job. Congratulations. I've been thinking about you. Simple with family members and friends. It doesn't even need to be to clients if you don't want to, although I would assume that, if you've worked with a client several times, many of them are your friends. especially if you have a lot of personal characteristics in common and you've become true friends. Reach out to people you know and who know you, low threat environment, and just say a positive message. I promise if you send 10 of those, you're going to get at least a few replies that validate that this is different and better. You're going to get a reply that says something like best email ever, which by the way, no one says unless there's a video in it. You're going to get a reply that says, oh my gosh, I totally needed to hear that today. Or, oh my gosh, that totally made my day. You're going to immediately understand that this is a different and better way to communicate for a variety of reasons. And hopefully those repetitions of getting comfortable with your camera, getting comfortable starting and ending the videos in terms of speaking, getting comfortable with whatever software you're using, getting comfortable hitting send and just letting it fly, it will be enough that you will get comfortable and start expanding on your use cases, because they are many and they start again from the initial inbound or outbound touch all the way through communicating with someone you've been working with for 20 or 30 or 40 years.
I have to say, this is very, 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 very good. And where I'm at now, and I just want to kind of restate it, is I came into this conversation thinking that this was going to be another call to action for us as business owners to incorporate more video into our websites, into our marketing in order to attract our ideal client. I did read enough to know that you were also actually calling out to use it throughout the process of your relationship with your existing clients. But what I'm getting now, it's like boom, light bulb went off. That's actually all the part that you're talking about. You're not, I mean, and I heard you said video for marketing is important.